Welcome to Let's Talk Jets Radio.
What's up, everybody? Let's talk Jets, episode number 4. A frequent caller, Bubbs. What's up, man?
What's going on? Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you, man. How you doing, man? It's the weekend's here. Are you excited? What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I got a lot of baseball this weekend, and then probably watch some and then watch the Yankees and stuff. So
you play baseball?
Yeah, I play baseball.
Where do you play?
For my local county team. So I've been playing for my whole life, really, since T-ball, about 4 years oldish. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of baseball heading into the summer, and then fall kind of slows down, and then I get back into the groove with winter training and stuff, and it's kind of just a year-round cycle. So
what position do you play?
I'm pitcher and third base. So
look at you.
I play a lot more pitcher than I do third, just because of the amount of kids there's like 3 or 4 kids on my team that play third, so I get in a lot more at pitcher. But yeah, I don't mind both positions. I like, but I prefer pitcher. And
you righty or lefty?
Righty.
Are you a starter, like a reliever, or what are you?
I start for this year. I've been a reliever in the past, but mainly this year I just started games. So I don't know if that's that's gonna continue on throughout high school and stuff. But I prefer starting over relieving, just because the flow of the game, and you kind of know when you're going in and stuff. It's just easier for me to kind of focus in a way.
So
when
then
I'm starting, I know. So
what pitchers do you like to watch throw?
I like I'm a Yankee fan.
Okay.
Wait, did you say which pitchers you like to throw or watch?
Yeah, yep, absolutely,
yeah.
Yep.
I'm a Yankee fan, but I really have always enjoyed watching DeGrom. I think he's just phenomenal.
Okay.
I like Cole. I think he's fun, and then Nasty Nestor's probably my favorite with all of his timing, and he doesn't throw hard. So a lot of people always think velocity is the biggest thing, but he's pulling hitters with low 90s, high 80s, which isn't that hard for considering some guys are up in the triple digits. So
he's crafty, he's clever. It's a mind game too. So now, what in the world made you a Jets fan?
So like many, I took after my dad. So it actually starts with him, and it's kind of a funny story with my dad. So my dad was he was originally a Giant fan, and he grew up watching all those Super Bowls. He tells me stories. He always tells me the story of when Scott Norwood missed a kick, and he thought it was over, and all that good stuff. So when he was going to school at Monmouth, when he was going to school there, one of his counselors was a huge Jet fan, diehard Jet fan. Had season tickets. Depending, whether the Jets won or lost, dictated her week. Just diehard fan. And my dad at the time when he was going there, they were just coming out of the Kotite era. So, and how bad that was. So my dad, the one day, shortly after they hired Parcells, my dad saw her one day. I don't know if it was in the hall or whatever, but just walked past her one day and said, you must be pretty fired up about the hiring of Parcells, a proven coach guy that's going to come in and change things, unlike Kotite did. And she was like, no, I'm done. I'm done with this team, done with the franchise.
What?
And she pretty much said, I'm selling my season tickets. Do you want them? I'm asking for nothing. So she gave my dad.
She was mad they hired Parcells?
No, she was just frustrated over the lacklusterness of the franchise.
Oh, I can understand that. Okay.
So she was just done. It wasn't even Parcells. She was done prior to Parcells being hired.
Okay.
And she was just done with the franchise. So she said that she was getting rid of her season tickets. I don't know how long she had season tickets, but so she said she was getting rid of them. And she didn't really want anything in return. So she ended up giving them to my dad, and my dad kind of ended up taking them and kind of switched from a Giant fan into a Jet fan, and he had season tickets for the entire Parcells era, and I'm not too sure if he went into the Al Groh era or Herm Edwards eras, but I know for a fact he was with the Parcells era, and he tells me stories all the time of the playoff game, the atmosphere, the packed, Giant Stadium, and how preparing the week of tailgating, who's bringing the grills and stuff, who's cooking, and he would go with a bunch of his friends, some of his guys that he worked with. So it was, it was really pretty cool. He kind of transferred. I'm sure at times he regrets it, but he transferred from being that Giant fan to being a Jet fan. So if it was never for that, I would probably be a Giant fan because I kind of just took after him and kind of all the teams. He was a Yankee fan. I'm a Yankee fan.
Right.
Ranger fan as well. So I kind of just took after all of his teams because he's the big sports fan in my house.
So then what year was the first year that you remember being a Jet fan? Like you have like vivid memories?
Yeah, well, I remember a couple things from the end of the Rex Ryan era.
Okay.
But I remember vividly like 2015 Bulls hired and thereon. I have a couple embarrassing things of the Rex Ryan era, some off the field things like jerseys and stuff I've gotten that didn't pan out so well.
Okay.
But I remember one game in particular of the Rex Ryan I remember. But other than that, I remember mostly the Bulls era. Obviously starting in 2015, which was a pretty painful.
Well, I mean, it was a successful year. So in your opinion, like Ryan Fitzpatrick was the first quarterback you kind of remember as a Jets quarterback then, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yeah, him. I mean, I little bit remember Mark Sanchez. I actually have a funny story. So in 2012, I believe it was, I got a Christmas gift. And it was a Mark Sanchez jersey.
Okay.
And that was towards the end of 2012 season. And then in 2013, he ended up tearing his labrum and he didn't play a game. So I got a Mark Sanchez jersey and I never even watched him play a game in it. So that was, and over the years, I've had some bad jerseys. I got a Le'Veon Bell t-shirt, Darnold jersey. I've made some mistakes with the jerseys. That's why now.
I have a Jamal Adams jersey. Before they traded him, I got a Jamal Adams jersey. We had a charity event. He actually signed it. I'm like, this is awesome. We got a nice jersey. It's signed, all this stuff. He's gone. Yeah. I have Jamal Adams. I have Marcus May. I have a whole bunch. I have a whole closet full of shit that's just worthless right now.
Yeah, I have Adams, Darnold. I had a Revis jersey, which is a good one. Mangold. And then I just last Christmas 2020, I got not Nick Mangold. I got a Joe Namath jersey. So I wear that every Sunday knowing that he can't get traded.
All right. So then the first year of Todd Bowles, which was a decent year, but very disappointing. Then after that, the wheels kind of fell off because the following year, Fitzpatrick fell apart. So as a young fan, do you ever be like, you know what? I don't want to deal with this team because they suck. Did you ever want to kind of jump ship?
Yeah, well, I'm actually a close friend of mine is a Bills fan. And, growing up, the Bills weren't very good. Jets weren't very good. Now, obviously, the Bills are one team to beat in the NFL, Super Bowl contender.
Right.
But there's definitely times, specifically during that, that 2020 season with Gase, where I've thought, about just switching, just terrible. And, but I will never switch. I'll always be a Jet fan because I always look at it, try to be glass half full. Like all these years of all this pain and terrible and all that.
Yep.
Whenever that day comes, then winning is just going to make it that much sweeter, and that parade, in the Canyon of Heroes is going to just make it that much louder and bigger and things like that. So, but it was funny because that 2015 season, that was probably one of my best memories, one of my worst memories of that season. Because still to this day, and this just shows you how I haven't really seen much of winning football. My favorite memory as a Jet fan was that Eric Decker overtime catch against the Patriots. And I was, I like Decker. I actually met Decker at a meet and greet. I think it was maybe a year or two later. It was one of his last years with the Jets. I met him, signed some autographs and stuff. But catching that ball in the corner of the end zone was a great moment. But in hindsight, it doesn't really mean much because then the next week, the worst moment came when Tompkins dropped the ball popped out of his hand. And I remember I was over at my friend's house, who huge Bills fan, and every weekend I go over his house. They like get pizza, wings, and stuff. They got 2 TVs, so they watch the Bills. I watch the Jets, and I remember I was over there Jets Bills, and when Fitzpatrick threw that ball up in the air, I stood up, and when I stood up, like we might, like if he catches this, he's going,
Yep.
and he drops the ball, and I just go like this, like
Yep.
it took me definitely a couple days to get over that, especially.
Bro, he dropped it right in front. We were sitting there. He dropped it literally 10 yards from us. We were sitting right there. It's just like you just can't. But even not even that. It was the Fitzpatrick interception in the end zone. It was Revis not be able to cover. What was it? Sammy Watkins.
Yeah.
The running back situation was strange. It was like a comedy of errors, man.
Yeah, and then Fitzpatrick just not. I mean, what did he have? Like 3 interceptions or something. It was just turnovers, and it's just a Jet thing to do. Blow a game like that.
But see, it's funny that funny hearing you say that, because I have years and years and years of this shit. So it's like, all right, like that I can go back and say that because I'm used to it. But you're young, man. You only had 2015. I mean, you have the Gase stuff and stuff, but it's not. You didn't go through too many bad things.
Yeah, that 2015 season was definitely my best season so far. But then, like you mentioned, 2016 season, and then the whole Fitzpatrick. The issue with Fitzpatrick was that whole contract.
Yep.
And then, the locker room and all that. And it just was like, we learned that Fitzpatrick was always that kind of quarterback. That's why they call him Fitzmagic. That guy that gets that 1-year deal, completely outplays his contract and gets a big deal and just flat out bad. And, it just, you had like a little bit of hope because you had Marshall, Decker, and it's just like, you said, the wheels just fell off.
But see, the thing is, though, it's like he was a good stopgap guy, but the whole contract thing was ridiculous. I think at some point he wanted like $20 million a year. He wanted to be paid like a starting quarterback, but like there was no competition for him. Nobody else was going to pay him. So like, why should we pay you this exorbitant amount? And you're not the franchise guy. Like you're not going to be the franchise quarterback the next 10 years. Like it was so ludicrous, man. And it divided the team. Yet Sheldon Richardson was pissed off. And then like that Kansas City game, I'll never forget, because it's just like he had probably one of the worst games of his career, and he comes out and he just spits on the organization, like he insults everybody, and then Todd Bowles starts him again, and that's when I knew Todd Bowles wasn't made for the job. I'm like, you know what? Like you can't have this kind of nonsense.
Yeah, it's funny because Bowles was like, and that's the one issue I feel like maybe in a way Bowles didn't succeed. We'll see how it does in Tampa now, but like Rex Ryan was that that tough coach, that guy that's gonna grind his, gonna get the best out of his guys. If you're making mistakes, you're gonna hear it. Like he was just that coach that just brings the energy, is gonna get the best out of his players. Like Bowles was that, not soft in a way, but was that calm guy that was nice. Tried to hold everybody's hand in a way. Tried to be like friends with everybody. And there was times where it was like he had to kind of be tough on his guys. Be like that game like you mentioned in Kansas City, and it just didn't happen. And that's where I feel like the players in a way kind of did their own thing, and then
he was too conservative, not enough leadership in the locker room, not enough rules, just wasn't enough discipline, no accountability. And then you just saw the locker room was disarray. There was fights, there was arguments, all this nonsense. And then you bring in Sam Darnold to the mix, which at that point, I mean, would you like to me, I'll be honest, like I was shocked they got him. I thought at 3 the trading up I thought was great. I'm excited about that, but I'm like, you know what? There's no way Sam Darnold's going to be there. I thought he'd be number 1 pick. I'm thinking, you know what? Probably Baker Mayfield's going to be the guy at this point. That's what I was kind of figuring. The Jets get Darnold. We're like, wow, we hit it. Finally, our luck has changed. So what are your thoughts on the whole Sam Darnold experience?
Well, I will always say this. I think Darnold got completely ruined by Gase. What I saw coming out of college was a guy that was an NFL-ready quarterback. In that draft, I was actually pretty high on Lamar Jackson just because I didn't. You haven't seen a guy like run like that since Michael Vick in his prime, and that was what was just so big about that. But outside of him, like Josh Allen was kind of unknown. Josh Rosen was terrible, but he's did nothing in his career obviously. But especially Darnold too. He's coming from a big school, USC, a lot of football history there. I bought in. I was all a believer. Now I was surprised, like you and many other Jet fans, that we actually got him. I thought Mayfield was going number 3 to us, and number 1 was Darnold. But and then Darnold, like it was just it was just so weird because his first throw, pick six, and I remember that throw like exactly. He threw that pick six, and I just turned around and just thought like this
Yep.
is our guy, this is our quarterback for the
Me
next.
too. I'm like, welcome to the Jets.
Yeah, and then he obviously tears up Detroit, but it was just I really think, to this day, he just got ruined by Gase because
Yeah,
his
but like
mm,
he ended the first year strong. Like he had the
yeah,
shootout against Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he did like he ended the season strong. We're like, all
yeah,
right, you know what? Like
yeah,
there's something to build on here. But what went wrong after that? I mean, the mono, I'm sure it doesn't help. But I mean, like,
yeah, the mono.
but where do you think it all went wrong? It was primarily Gase hire, or was it the supporting cast around him, or was it him too? Because I wonder about like I admit Gase was definitely a problem, dude. Like he was probably one of the worst hires, the worst time, wrong guy, everything. But so I think Sam gets some blame too, though, man. Like I think he
Yeah.
didn't develop enough as he should have as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the mono thing was unfortunate, especially like you said, he had a couple to end the year in 2018. He had a couple, good games. The Packers game, I think he had that good game against the Texans that they
Yep.
ended up losing. But he played well, was, making good throws and stuff. But, I think it was a little bit of everything because, it was some on Darnold's part. The 4 interception game against the Patriots was just bad, the whole ghost game.
Terrible.
And then, but I also think it was a little bit of, coaching and stuff, him getting mono hurt, but yet also, a Nunwa could not stay healthy, one of the pieces
Right.
around him. Chris Hearn did it, Chris Herndon kind of fell off.
Yep.
So I think it was a little bit of everything, into his struggles. But the whole, because it was weird because he ended the 2018 season well, and in the Jets ended like 6-2 in 2019 as well.
Yep.
And it was like, then you're hoping for that third year jump. He just never really made that jump. It was kind of like end the season well, and he just never made that big jump.
Yeah, it was just, and that's like the one
big,
thing. Like to me, it's like he had a propensity for turnovers, even coming out of college. A lot of things you saw in college, he was doing in the pros. So it's like, is that the coaching he was getting? Because he did a lot of work in the offseason. He had a quarterback coach. He worked hard. But I just wondered after that, his demeanor and his mindset, his personality, to me, just wasn't made for this area. It wasn't made for the New York area. It wasn't, because you got to be you got to be thick skin. I think he was thick skin. The mono thing was just insane. Like only the Jets. But it's just like his body language, like when you have a young team, or you not even that, a bunch of veterans around looking at you, you got to have big shoulders, man. Be like, rally the troops, get everybody fired up. You'll overcome adversity, do a lot of things. And I think he got eaten up by bad coaching. He got eaten up by the environment. And I think at some point you just he just gets lost. He lost confidence in himself.
Yeah.
You just saw he would make throws. Like, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah,
they were terrible.
Yeah, some of the throws he just and that's what I always said with Darnold too. Like some of those throws he would make off his back foot, not even looking, to just throw it across the middle.
Yep.
And it's like there's like four guys there's like four defenders, and then there's one jet, and it's like just back foot across the middle. But like you said, with the whole, he wasn't, the whole toughness thing, like almost similar to Bowles. He was maybe a little too nice.
Yes.
He did say all the right things,
Yep.
in the media and stuff, but I guess, for a kid, California kid, coming to New York, big change, big media, being the quarterback in the New York Jets, there's a lot of weight that comes with it, especially for an organization that hasn't had a Super Bowl winning quarterback since Namath, obviously. So, he just wasn't, really, I guess, built for that in a way. But, and then you see him in Carolina now too, and it's just head scratching because he showed so much promise, and then it's all kind of gone downhill. And it, like you said, accumulation of a lot of things, Gase himself, the toughness, the head scratching throws
I gotta ask you this then, because what were your thoughts? Did you watch the Adam Gase press conference live when it happened?
Sadly, yes.
So now I will say that I admit I was so anti-Gase at the hire. I was I was angry as hell. But when you watch the press conference, just explain your mindset when you saw him just wigging out.
Well, I was fed up because I wanted McCarthy. That's who I personally wanted.
Okay.
But I was just, because I started getting texts from my friends and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, look at your coach," and you see the tacos coming up on the screen, all these people editing stuff. So I turned it on and I see him, and I'm like, and you look at McCagnon, he's looking at Christopher Johnson. He's like, we seriously hired this dude?
Yep.
Like, he's like,
He was out of his mind.
Can't wait.
Dude. I'm like that. To me, it's like I want to fire him there. I'm like, I want to fire him at the press conference. I'm like, this is supposed to be our new culture guy. Like, he's leading us to where football is going, and he has probably one of the most embarrassing press conferences in the history of the organization. And that's his first day. Like, come on, man.
It was his tie wasn't on right. His tie was like loose too. He didn't even. So he's got his googly eyes, his tie and stuff, and then you got Christopher Johnson talking to him like he was Bill Belichick, coaching to where football is going. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, this is who we're putting our second-year quarterback.
Yep.
This is the guy. This is him.
Yep.
And then what really got me was when they fired McCagnon after the draft.
Oh.
It was just like, and I remember he I think drafted Josiah Polite or somebody who they then cut prior to the season even started. So there's a wasted pick. But the whole Gase era, right when he stepped into that room and right when his eyes started to go whack, you knew we were in for a long, long, long haul. And that was, of course, with Darnold, second-year quarterback, who you want to it wasn't good. And then, then they go out and try to spend all this money, and I don't even think. And, I'd be interested to see what your take was on Bell, because I feel like Gase, in a way, misused him a little bit.
Yep.
I think, you look at his carries in Pittsburgh, he was getting a ton. Gase would give him 11, 12 carries a game and call it a day.
Well, see, to me, Gase was spiteful, dude. Gase was spiteful. He didn't like somebody. He wasn't going to play him. Like, he didn't like Bell. Exactly. Bell didn't like him. They were always going back and forth. And it was just like, he's like that jerk guy.
That's why, exactly. You can keep going.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. And that's why I don't get too, like, if Gase didn't really like him, why did they keep McCagnon for that long to let him go through free agency and do all that? Like you said with the ownership, when Gase got hired, that's when I also really started to kind of look and see, like, what are we doing? Like, what is this ownership doing? Because Bulls, look, it was a rough era, but it was not nearly what Gase.
But see, the difference was the Bulls hire was a respected hire. Bulls is a very respected football guy.
Yeah.
And the hiring of Bulls and McCagnon after him, and there weren't like a fixed marriage, a prearranged marriage was stupid, but whatever. But Bulls was respected, McCagnon was respected. So, okay, we have two quality football guys. Yeah. You go out and you bring in Gase, which was, dude, and like, I hated it. I hated every aspect of it. And the weird thing is, like, there were so many reputable people the Jets asked for insight on the hire, and none of them gave Gase a vote of confidence. It was like Andrew Brandt, like, I think it was like Bill Poley, like a bunch of different guys. Peyton Manning calls, that's it. Got to give the job to Gase. And then you made the best point, was the thing that drove me the craziest was you let McCagnon spend $100 million, you let him draft, and then you fire him, setting your organization back 2 more years.
Exactly.
Because it's pretty much a cycle. When you do that, it takes at least 2 years to clean it up, or 3 years. And then you have a coach that's just alienating everybody. It's just
and it's almost like, in a way, the Jets didn't trust Gase with the young players developing them, so they felt they needed to go out and sign all these proven players that don't really need, coaching to be, developing them, and just guys that can come in and just be, big time players. But it was just bad. And then I just don't get, like you said, it just completely set the franchise back, spending all that money. It just was not. It just, and they hired him too so quickly. It was like season ended, boom, Gase our coach.
They played the game of Matt Rule too. Like they had McCarthy, and for whatever reason they didn't like McCarthy. I think the same thing happened with McCarthy. It happened with Rule. They said, listen, we want to hire you, but we want you to inherit these coaches. And they're like, no, like, you're not gonna tell us who we're gonna hire. It's either my staff or I'm not coming here, which is the way it should be. That's what most coaches would do, so it's
and exactly. And I just the whole then the dynamic too, because then Douglas takes over and he can't do anything until the 2020 draft. So he takes over that bad team. It was a mess. It was a mess from the start all the way until the two wins in 2020 that we all.
So I guess my next question is, did you agree with the trading of Sam Darnold? Well, let's go back. When they hired Joe Douglas, which is a good thing, but he was hamstrung the first year with Gase because Gase had too much power in the building, whatever else. They finally fired Gase. The one good thing that Joe Douglas did was he got a 6-year contract, which he realized that this is a true rebuild where this roster sucks. Like, this is no 2-year deal. Like, I know I need a significant amount of time to clean this up because this team's a mess. That's a good thing. But did you agree with the trading away of Sam Darnold?
Yeah, well, I saw a little bit of both sides of it. I saw the aspect and the side of build around him, bringing in a legit coach that, knows what he's doing and, go that route. I also saw the route of just restart. This would be Darnold's third coach going into his 4th season. Yep. Also, I think that was his third coach. Yeah, because then different offense, all that stuff. So,
yep.
Yeah, I also saw that side of it. So, when the deal first goes down, I was okay with it because, I saw both sides of it. And then, fired Gase, traded him. It was kind of just a restart. And then you bring in Wilson and, he's got, fresh coaching staff because let's just say Darnold plays this year. You got to look at this quarterback class this past season, maybe outside of Kenny Pickett they're all very unproven. Yep. So I could have just imagined. I think that might have been some of the Jets' thought process of it was like, look, Wilson, we see what the potential. We have an opportunity here. Carolina's, willing to make the trade. Let's make it now instead of Darnold going out, having another poor season, us winning 4 games.
And you got to pick up his $18 million option too. So you'd have him on the roster this year as an $18 million backup with maybe Kenny Pickett playing, which is what the Panthers are now. The Panthers are stuck. They go out and get Mayfield, whatever you pay Mayfield. You have so much money sitting on the bench with Darnold. It's wild. So I agree with the trade of Darnold. I was done. I thought he was damaged goods, and you had to do a full restart. So Joe Douglas goes out, and now he's going to hire his own coach. And initially, there was a lot of rumors where we all thought he's coming from the Ravens. Wink Martindale is going to be the guy. He's going to bring a guy from the Ravens. Doug Peterson with ties with the Eagles. Like Saleh wasn't the guy that none of us really thought he was going to get. They interviewed him, but like, you know what? This is probably not the direction to go. Who did you want initially for the team?
Well, Martindale, all those guys, I knew were qualified candidates that they were looking at. But I was really Saleh kind of caught me off guard. I had no issue with the hire. I liked it a lot. A guy that the players respected in San Francisco, and especially the outpouring of support when he got hired from the players in San Francisco. I honestly, I don't know why I felt this. I thought the Jets were going to make a strong run at Bieniemy, just because of what he was able to do in Kansas City, the whole Mahomes thing, all the offense. So that's what I kind of felt like, and I was kind of leaning towards that direction, especially if you're going to, draft a quarterback, bring in an offensive mind guy who's, Bieniemy's worked with the best of the best in Patrick Mahomes. So I actually thought they were going to go that route. But they went, the route of, culture and, obviously defensive mind in Saleh, and also a guy who well-respected around the league. And, like I mentioned, a couple seconds ago with guys, the outpouring of support in San Francisco when he got hired by the Jets, Richard Sherman, all these guys, giving their vote of confidence.
I also think too, is the Jets needed like a leader. They needed a fiery guy, a passionate guy. They need to install some emotion back in the franchise because Adam Gase, like Todd Bowles was a bunch of zombies. And then Adam Gase just sucked the rest of life out of the team too, where you're like, we have no personality. We have no life. We're dead in the water. And now it's like Saleh had that, like going back to when Rex Ryan came in, he had that little boost where everybody's backfired up, the fan base, like everybody could feel the energy. And Saleh brought energy back to the building. But he realized, I think, too, like, you know what? This isn't a significant rebuild, man. Like, we have a lot of work to do here. And you need a guy that can relate to the younger players. If you're going to build through the draft, which sounds great, you need a coach that can relate to young players and mold young players and coach them and motivate them. You can't be a complete hard ass and alien because they're going to be like, you know what? We ain't playing for this guy. So, and in many ways, it was a really smart hire. I'm glad it happened. Yeah. But it was a really interesting way to go about it, though.
Yeah. And, prior to the hire, Jets really didn't, like you said, with Bowles and Gase, Bowles the most emotion he would show if he was talking to himself.
Yeah.
After a bad play or something. Yep. And then Gase was just, we already know how that played out. I don't even know what to say. We really haven't had a coach since Rex Ryan that was passionate, fiery, that guy that, is going to get guys to buy in, emotional, and you saw that too in San Francisco, even just after good plays of him getting pumped up. And you saw a little bit of that this year out of Saleh. But I think you're going to see even more out of that this year, out of him, just because I think there's a lot more talent. There's going to be, I think, a lot more winning this year than there was last season.
Yeah, I think
and I think
he also got comfortable, man. Like I think when this season first started, he had so many responsibilities and so many things going wrong, and he didn't know how to be himself, dude. Because he was like he had to worry about so many different things. And then as the season played out, he got a lot more comfortable. Mike LaFleur went into the booth. Team, they started, and he got into his groove, and he kind of figured he had better game management, better time management. He started holding guys accountable. He bench Van Roten. He did different things. You're like, all right, this is good. But it was in a lost season. So, towards the end of the season, a lot of fans didn't care anymore, man. We knew we sucked. We were like, you know what? This season's a wash. But now going into this season, I think there's a lot more expectations. I'm curious to see how he handles it because, it starts in training camp, man. Like, you're going to play a lot of very physical teams. Like, last year, they got pushed around a lot. Now, you add a lot of talent, which is good, but talent's one thing. You got to have a physical football team. You have to put that mindset into your team. So I'm curious to see how he handles that, man, how he motivates these guys and gets them to start, stepping up their game a little bit.
Yeah, I totally agree. I heard last season that some of the training camp practices were a little, slow.
I was
soft.
there, yeah.
Yeah. And, if you ramps that up a little bit this season, obviously making sure that guys are healthy. But this is a big year for him. I mean, this is a season where you got a lot more talent than you do last season. You got a lot of guys that are hungry. I mean, I know CJ Mosley came out and said that, he wants to be in the postseason. Sure. He wants to be in the playoffs. And, you have a lot of, veterans on, a couple veterans on this team that have been around winning cultures, know what it takes. So, the honeymoon phase is obviously over. And for both him and Douglas, you have to come out this season with that fire of, you got to win football games. You got to compete. You can't have a 4-win season where, we're talking about the draft, in the middle of the year. You got to have a good year. Wilson's got to show progress. And, you at the end of the season, you got to really feel like if you get 8 wins this year and you're in a good spot, you're ready to kind of take off for the postseason next year. That I think is where you have to be.
See, for me, it's like I think Joe Douglas did his job. I think if you look at the roster overall, starting in free agency, responsible contracts, good players, quality players, love the game of football, and you look at the roster overall, dude, including free agency and the draft, every position group has been upgraded. They really have been. Or you have competent play that where you're like, dude, you've taken away a lot of excuses for Zach Wilson because this offense can be dynamic. There's playmakers everywhere. If a player goes down, the backup is going to be good. Like, for so many years, dude, your starting guy went down. You're like, oh, we're in deep trouble because our backup is terrible. So now you have a lot of really good things. There's a lot more competition. You brought in guys that you said, Whitehead went to the Super Bowl. Uzama was just in the Super Bowl. These are guys that they expect to win. And that's last year. I don't think we had that. You have a lot of new guys, a lot of young guys. Nobody knows what's going on. Come up with the Gase experience. The Jets were just a losing team, man. They were losers. They've been losers. But now it's like you got to bring in a winning mindset. So you bring in college players that are ridiculously hungry, like Michael Carter, Elijah Moore, Vera Tucker. Add that with veteran players that are hungry to win, that know winning, and that's me. The expectation should be higher, dude. They should. I'm glad CJ Mosley said that. You got to have I think for too long we justified losing. You know what? We can win 4 games. We're rebuilding. Trust the process. Okay, that process is there. At some point, everybody's got to play better and expect to win more. And it starts this year. It has to.
Yep. Exactly, and especially with the rookies, last season, they were all still finding their footing in the NFL, big change from college to NFL. And even, there was some struggles, growing pains, it's just a part of, faster game, NFL and all that. So, now those guys are in their second season. They know what it, they know what it takes to, play at a high level in this league. They know what it takes to succeed. And, you nailed it right on the head. You gotta, you can't have a 4-win year and then say, rebuilding, because that seems to be it for too long. You need to have that fire. You need to come out and, you can't, because this is a 2-year thing. You win you have 2 4-win seasons up onto the next, coach. Then you have 2 4-win seasons onto the next. And it's just a repeating carousel of pain.
It is.
So you gotta.
It's true because, and that's why I'm glad that they showed in Flight 2022 where they showed Saleh saying that, listen, we sucked last year. We're getting dominated in the AFC East. We're getting dominated situations. Enough is enough. We're done accepting this. And that it starts with him. I'm glad he said it. I'm glad Joe Douglas said it. I wish the owner would say it, but those guys they don't know how to handle themselves.
Like losing.
Just cut off the phone, cut off their microphone, stop interviewing them because they don't know how to. They give the wrong message every time, dude.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they showed the behind the scenes where Saleh is saying, you know what? We expect more now. We demand more. That's the way it should be.
I love Flight 22 was awesome.
Yeah.
Taking you inside and all that stuff. And it just shows you like this, they have a legit plan in place. It's all about going out and executing it. Like watching that, series, all 5 episodes, and the behind the scenes stuff, the process of which they, draft their players. And it's finally, football people doing the football things. Hopefully owners have completely, stayed on the other side of the room and just kind of watch. But, I mean, there's a lot of excitement. And, even Douglas, when he said at the end of the year, his postseason press conference, he said 4 wins, or what was it? 6 wins in the past 2 years isn't good enough.
Nope.
6 wins is not going to, in the past 2 years, in one season is not going to get you anywhere.
Yep.
6 wins in 2 years is even worse. That's not going to get you completely anywhere. So you gotta turn around. You gotta have a good season this season. Wilson, with him being the quarterback and stuff, he's got to have a jump. And a lot obviously weighs on him. But
so now, that's probably the big piece because the defense is going to be better. They have more pass rushers now than they've probably ever had in the last decade. You have a much improved secondary when you add Sauce Gardner, you add Jordan Whitehead, you add DJ Reed. They're going to be better, man. The defense, and I'm glad Ulbrich actually admitted that he made mistakes last year and didn't maximize his personnel, which we were all arguing. We were yelling that for 6 months, and they were so stubborn. They never admitted that, and they finally admitted that too. So the defense is going to be better. The offense is stacked with legitimate playmakers that we're not even exaggerating. Like you're adding Garrett Wilson to a receiver core. It's already going to be decent. Like you already have Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, and Berrios. Like Garrett Wilson's got no pressure, man. And then you add in 2 tight ends, maybe 3 tight ends that could be a difference maker. Plus a dynamic running back to an already good running back, in Michael Carter. So now it's like, all right, Zach Wilson, we're giving you the keys to the car, but your car is jacked up with like turbo power if you want it because you can do so much with it. Now it's like, how does he handle it? Now he's doing his world tour of hanging out with his teammates and passing camps, and he did tight end university and all this stuff. But what do you need to see out of Zach Wilson in year 2 to say, you know what? I feel comfortable in year 3 that this is my franchise quarterback.
To be honest with you, I just need to see him, command the game, play well, like just have, limit the turnovers, just have a good, solid season. Don't try to win the game in one throw. It's not going to happen. Use, your weapons to your advantage. And I think the fact that he has a reliable tight end, I think is big. And I also think, there's a lot of pressure on him, but I think the fact that he's got 2 good running backs in the backfield relieves some of it off of him because you can go to the run game. You feel, those are trustworthy guys that coming out of the backfield too in the receiving game. I got to see a jump. I don't want to see, you can't have a Sam Darnold jump where you kind of, it's kind of like that. You got to have a jump. Josh Allen, I'm not saying turn into Josh Allen overnight, but that kind of jump where, he struggles his rookie year, he learns from it. And now it's got to put it out there because if he struggles this season, it's going to be a long, long off season. It is. So you just limit the turnovers, use your weapons, do what he did in college, which was, he made some big throws, but your arm talent and all that, use that to your advantage. But don't try to win the game in one throw. You're down by 10. Don't throw a ball in double coverage and get it intercepted, and then 10 turn into down by 17.
Yeah, I'm with you, dude. Like I want to see him like manage the game. I want to see emerge as a leader, like rally his team, emerge as a leader, have good command of the offense, manage the game, and just be proficient. This year is a matter of just being proficient because last year he wasn't good at all. Be proficient this year. If you can do that, the Jets will be very, very competitive. Next year, become the game breaker. Become like, all right, like I know this offense inside out and backwards. I know my playmakers are. Now you're going to have Elijah Moore year 3, Michael Carter year 3. These guys are all going to be flying on every, Garrett Wilson year 2. Then it's like now Zach Wilson takes off. So it's not even discounting. He could do that this year, but I think it's realistic is saying, you know what, go from being bad to decent, where you're like, all right, this kid's showing us a lot. Perfect analogy. Don't be the home run guy. Like just stay within yourself, get this all together. Then next year, when you're comfortable, you can start airing it out and doing all kinds of cool stuff. And then, but then like we're ascending, like we have our guy,
that's when you're looking at, playoffs and
Yeah.
looking at truly competing
Yep.
in the
For the division.
AFC East. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the big thing. It all, just continue to build. Last year, not great. This season, better.
Yep.
And then, like you mentioned, next season, that's, I think, as a whole, as long as this year goes as planned, as a whole, next year should really be that big takeoff where your postseason 9, 10, 11 wins, hopefully, where you're really back to winning games, similar to the early parts of, the Rex Ryan era. And then, which we've had a couple winning seasons.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, as opposed to Rex Ryan eras, you're doing this with a relatively young team. Like all these guys are growing together, winning together. Like Rex Ryan had a lot of veterans on the offensive line, things like that. Like a lot of your core is all young guys, man, which is perfect. This is the perfect way to really do it when you have, everybody's in year 2, year 3, year 4. Zach Wilson, then when they all get paid, it's going to suck. But it's cool that they're there. But the one story I think going to training camp, the only story really that's out there, it's the one controversial one, is Mekhi Becton, where it's just, I think it was handled weird by the Jets. It's been handled weird by everybody. And now when you're in an offseason where everybody's desperate for some kind of news, everybody's going to, analyze workout videos and how he wears his T-shirt and was he sweating in the press conference and all this other nonsense. I honestly think he's going to be a right tackle. I think that, you saw, I don't know if you saw George Fant's video today or the videos of George Fant working out. He looks like he's in ridiculous shape. I think he knows he's the left tackle, dude. The Jets are going to get a deal done with him. And Mekhi's on right. What do you think is going to happen?
I just hope that personally, I'm still kind of up in the air. Like I could see both ends of it. I hope that he is, because that 11th overall pick, you got him in 2020. Like you passed up on CeeDee Lamb, who's been very good. I just don't want that to be the big talk for the next. Yeah, exactly. So that's why I just hope that he can be that guy. I would tend to say, if I had to say right now, he probably will start, I would say right now. But if Font, comes in, Font too, if Font thinks that, he's got the job locked down, and then, Becton comes in and, takes it away and is playing all that, then that's a different story. But my biggest concern was the way kind of Saleh approached it, because he went out and said things about, went out of his way to say things about Mims, of how he looks, Even Olberg said things about Quincy Williams and his leadership, of how he's taken a big leap. They went out of their way to say that stuff. Like, you didn't see that about Becton.
Nope.
And, some of it could just be, the weight could be an issue still.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, some of that could just be the way his body is. No matter how hard he tries, he could just be kind of that.
It's a fine line, man, because I know what you're saying, but I think that, there's a lot of rumblings. Like, as fans, we protect Becton, dudes. We like him a lot. We hate, we protect one of our own, man. It's
want to see him succeed.
We want to see him succeed. We're rooting for him. We know how pivotal it'll be if he comes back healthy and dominates, which we all want him to do.
Yeah.
But there was rumblings last year that, wasn't in the best shape. We see all the workouts, but you can work out all you want. But if you don't eat right and do the right thing, otherwise it could be an issue. And you get out of shape, you do things. The injury was a freak injury. But before that, his rookie year, he played injured half the time. He would get hurt and Gase would put him back out there. So it made no sense. But you see a lot of good things. But now it's like you go to mandatory minicamp, and we hope that he was if he was in good shape, dude, the Jets would have been ecstatic. And they'd have been telling everybody and their best friend, you know what? Mekhi came in. He's in great shape. He's ready to go. They didn't say that, dude. He looks good. He'll be fine. He will be fine. So, even Boomer Esiason, who has contacts with the Jets, and he knows what's going on. And a lot of times they leak stories to him, so he gets it out there. He was saying, listen, this guy's probably still 20 pounds off where he's supposed to be, which is okay, but he still has 5 weeks to get there, which is a good thing. But it's hard when you keep playing this game, man, because it's you got to be in your best shape when you get there, because these guys are going to run all over you. They're going to, you can't use training camp to get in shape. You got to be in shape when you get to training camp.
Yeah, because you make a great point with the training camp, because Mims last year was trying to catch up the entire time.
Yeah.
And that it wasn't working.
It never works.
So like you said, these 5 weeks, we're in the middle of probably what might make or break his future.
Absolutely.
Not probably, it will make or break his future. If he comes in and the Jets still aren't in love with where he's at, or ecstatic, then that's when problems are really going to start to arise, and you're going to hear about it more. The whole injury thing too kind of I
Strange.
question, because I don't know if it's just not so much his weight, but just the fact that he's a big guy and he might just take longer to heal, because it is a lot, on the
Yeah, but
knees and
then,
stuff. But
but if that's the case, then why do the Jets have to be so coy about everything and not
yeah,
just be transparent? Like, don't tell us it's a 6 to 8 week injury, and then it's like
mhm,
week to week, and then he'll be back this season, and all of a sudden, because then it's like, all right, what changed?
yeah,
Why is he not back? And then it was like, oh, well, maybe this, and it's like, and then it's like, all the stories came out about, well, when he got hurt, he gained too much weight, and he couldn't go back, and he couldn't get all this other. But then it's like all this speculation. Why couldn't the Jets just come out and just be honest about it and
yeah,
just play these games? And it made it worse. And you're
yeah,
right, dude. Like, if he comes to camp week day one and not ready to play, or he's up on the sideline with the trainers, you're gonna be like, dude, red flag. Because now what are we doing?
yeah,
Like, you've had the entire offseason to get ready to play. And I'm hoping, dude, he comes back just like at his weight, the right weight, pushing people around, and not, because if not, it's going to be a huge distraction with this team. Dude. It will, because it's just
yeah.
the media won't let it go.
And then you'll look back on it if he doesn't turn out to be what it is, and you look back on the guys that the Jets possibly passed up on
Yeah.
as other options. But I saw you tweeted out too about, like, the T-shirts and giving away for charity and stuff. Like, I think it would be great. Like, everyone's labeling him as a bust, and I
Yep.
want to see him bounce back and be that Pro Bowl, that guy
Yep.
that is that elite force, and just completely just shut everybody up about
Yep.
all the bust takes. Because if he has a big year and he's back to what we saw close to his rookie year,
Yep.
even better, hopefully, then you got your offensive line for a very long time with him and Tucker, and so Laken Tomlinson, who hopefully has a long stay here as
Yeah.
well. It just, this offensive line could be elite with him in it. It's just a
Yep.
matter of if he can just do the proper things to
Yeah.
get ready and just be kind of, in a way, responsible.
Yeah, I think they gotta sign somebody too, though. Like, I know they brought
Yeah,
Riley Reef in, but dude, they've got to find a legitimate veteran tackle to back up both these guys. Because Fant's coming off injury too, but you saw he looked like he's in great shape. But like,
yeah,
Max Mitchell isn't the guy. McDermott's not the guy. These are the guys they have back there. These are
yeah,
not. I mean, you need to have a quality guy behind them. You have to.
yeah. And I did hear though that which I hope is positive, he's still, I guess, in the area.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you saw in Boomer and Geo. I guess they found like an Uber Eats order or something. Did you hear about that?
The chicken wings, the chicken parm wings, or something like he was eating.
Yeah, and that's kind of concerning. But at least he's in the area, and hopefully he's taking advantage of, maybe some of
I
his
hope
teammates
so.
around, going and working with them. That that's big.
Yeah, so I mean, that's like, the one storyline other than Zach Wilson going into training camp is what's going to happen with Becton. Other than that, it should be a quiet camp, because there's a lot of young guys, there's a lot of competition. Everybody, they're all good guys. They love the game of football. It's like a team, it's like a very cohesive unit. So
Yeah.
just hopefully it doesn't become a distraction. If there's not a distraction, Becton does the right thing. Then you said earlier, dude, this is an exciting year, man. Like, I can't wait till week one. Like, this is finally should be a fun football season.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And like I said, there's a lot of hope. That's really what I could just say is you have not had this type of hope for this Jet team in a long time.
Yep.
Brought you nothing. We've talked about the Bulls there already today, but there's a lot of good pieces in place. It's just all about putting out to the field and winning football games. And hopefully Becton just comes in the camp ready to go and has a good camp, goes into the season and tears it up, and is the guy that we all thought we were getting while we drafted him.
So then, as you're still a younger fan, do you have any favorite players, like all-time favorite players?
One of the players that my favorite, Nick Mangold. Love
Okay.
Nick Mangold.
Yep.
I'm actually trying to get tickets. I want to go to his Ring of Honor ceremony.
Do it.
I want a huge Nick Mangold fan. He was one of my first like actual jerseys that I got and wore a lot, because the Sanchez jersey I didn't wear much because he never played one. I got it. So, but Mangold was one of my favorites. I loved Jamal Adams when he was here. I really liked him. I actually have a couple memorabilia things I wanted to show, one of them involving Adams, but I always liked him, loved the way he played. But my all-time favorite Jet that I've actually seen definitely would be Mangold. So.
Okay. And so then, as a young fan, if somebody says, what's life as a Jets fan, how would you say what it is?
It's been painful, very painful. I mean,
everybody says the same thing.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's funny because I was my mom and dad always tell me I was watching that Jets Steelers game.
Mhm.
I don't remember any of it. So I was actually watching the game and stuff, but I don't remember. I was too young
Be
to remember.
happy.
So yeah, I know. I hear. I've rewatched it before and seen it. Like I've seen highlights and stuff from it, but I just for all my sports teams, really, I just want a championship. I've never witnessed one. Too young to remember the Yankees. Obviously, I
Yep.
wasn't born by '94 when the Rangers, Jets, obviously, haven't won since '69, and I'm also a Net fan from their, because they began in Jersey and stuff, and
Yeah.
that's a kind of a different story. But they've never won one before, so you know, but yeah, it's been a lot of pain. But that's like I said, I think there's a lot of hope with this.
Yeah.
I just hope it doesn't turn into a thing where it's just going to be the Jets going to jet. Like, I just don't want that. I just
Yeah,
want
it seems like it's different this time, dude. Like I've seen a lot of rebuilds, I've seen a lot of things, but this one you
Yeah.
could see like a true blueprint, a plan. A lot of it makes sense. Quality players, like they have legitimate talent. It seems much
Yeah.
different this time.
Yeah. I think you said this in one of your prior fan interviews. Like, with all the rebuilds you've gone through, did you dislike the Gase era more than Kotite? Or,
Well, Gase ruined Darnold, which is bad. That's like Darnold, I think, had potential to be a good quarterback, but Gase ruined him. Kotite
yeah,
was just terrible. I mean, Kotite was just awful, dude. That was some of the worst football. They were out of shape, no discipline, no rhyme or reason what they were doing. They would have early leads and blow all of them. And the
yeah,
press conferences after the game were worse than anything we've ever seen. It was like, like we played 60 minutes of football. We left it all on the field. We're going to bounce back on the practice field. It was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? It was so bad. It
yeah.
was just, but Gase ruined Darnold, dude. Like, you inherited a young quarterback. I mean, Kotite had Neil O'Donnell, which at that time was like a high price free agent. But
Yeah.
I mean,
He played at Pittsburgh, right? I think.
yeah, he went to Super Bowl with Pittsburgh, had a terrible game, and then he left to come to the Jets, which is like the big big acquisition, which nobody really wanted him. And he was terrible. So
I'll start out. So, so you began watching the Jets in the
like early, like 95, 94, 93, like around then.
so you kind of got thrown right into the Kotite.
My first year of season tickets was the Kotite's first year.
Yeah,
Lucky me, right?
Yeah.
and one of the first games I went to was the fake spike game with Marino. So I was just blessed all the way around, man. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it's just like I said earlier, it's been a lot of pain. Not many. I mean, every Sunday, going over with my friend's house and stuff, and eating and watching football. It's a lot of fun, but just I want to see winning. Like I've never, other than the 10-6 season, I've never seen a winning season. So I want a playoff game. I'd love to go to a playoff game. I know, you hear stories. My dad tells me of how,
Yep.
that Jacksonville game was wild. Just
The Colt game was wild. I mean, it's just because Jet fans are starved, man. It's like when this team is good, there's no better fan base, man. Because it's just we're so loyal, we're so passionate, we're fired up. It's like you're beaten down after a while. You're like, come on, man. Like, who wants to go to MetLife Stadium when the team is 3-9, playing like crap? Half the stadium is the opposing fans. It's just it takes the life out of you, man.
Well, yeah, I've gone to 3 Jet games, and my first one was in 2015. I went to the Jets Redskins game, and that was when the Jets, I think, won that week, and they went to like 4-1. That was Ivory. I remember like a big game, he had like 100 yards or something, like a touchdown. And I remember like that game, the crowd was big. I actually got into the field that game, and I was right next to Bowles and Brandon Marshall and a couple of them. But I remember that game too. It was like crowd was pretty big.
Yep.
And then with my friend, I went to a Jet Bills game. It was the week after Darnold got hurt in Miami, or Jose got hurt, and I went there with McCown, and they got smoked like 41-10. And just the difference in atmospheres from that game compared to that Redskins game, oh my God, that game was terrible. And I went with, it was not good. It was that was a blowout. McCown played bad, and I went to the wrong Mike White game this year. I went to the Jets Bills Mike White game when he had 4 picks.
Yep, that was definitely the wrong one.
Yeah, it was funny because there was a guy in front of us that was like, you wonder what he ate the morning of that 4 touchdown game. But yeah, I just want playoffs, and hopefully a Super Bowl will come soon. I like you said, this definitely feels different. especially
Yep.
the way they're doing it. The Jets over the years have kind of brought in these big time players. Like the Jets are finally building through the draft and building, a foundation, not trying to, they're finally building from the ground up. They're not trying to put the roof on first and everything else on. They're finally,
Dude,
you know,
absolutely right. It's a very right now. It's a very easy team to root for and buy into and support.
yeah,
You have a very likable coach. The quarterback is likable too, man. He's trying to do all the right things. All the young players, like everybody's likable, dude. It's like just a good group of guys. Now it's just like put together. Just win games now. Like you don't need to talk shit. You don't need to make headlines. Just shut your mouth, work hard, and get the results. That's it.
yeah. And like you said, likable team. Like even them, going to the games. Like I saw Zach Wilson the other day was at the Yankee game.
Yep.
What was it? I think Dan Feeney, Conklin, a couple other dudes. So it was a couple other guys from the team. Uzama maybe he was at the game. So even just that team bonding, we haven't really seen that much. It just seems like this is a tight knit group that has so much potential. It's just all about unlocking that and putting it out there on the field. So.
No, I can't wait, dude. So before I let you go, man, are you on social media? Do you want to give out your information so people can follow you?
Yeah. I actually have one more thing. I have a piece of memorabilia I want to show.
No, let's do it. I'm in.
My grandpa served in the Vietnam War.
Okay.
And during the war, obviously that was from like the 50s and 70s. He got Namath, who was always playing during the 60s, sent him an autograph thing.
Wow.
It basically says, it's kind of old now, but it basically says, like, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, I can see it.
Best wishes, Joe Namath.
Wow, that's incredible, man.
Yeah, so my grandma a couple years ago brought it over, and I was really, it's old. It's probably from when he was playing. There's no date on it, but
that's old. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, he gave it to him. I don't know if when my grandfather was done serving, or if it was when he was still serving, if he sent them out to all the people. But I got that from my grandmother one day, gave it to me. So it's probably definitely my most prized piece of Jets.
That's tremendous.
Yeah. And I also got a signed football when I went to training camp in 20.
There you go.
Which I got Ron Harper on here, which is, I believe, the guy which Fireman Ed wears.
Bruce Harper.
Bruce Harper, yeah, not my bad.
Ron Harper's a basketball player.
Yeah, my bad. Bruce Harper, who
Yep.
Ed wears. And I also got Marcus May, Jamal Adams. I got Osemele. I actually was talking to him for like 2 or 3 minutes because I was one of the he came to me, and then there was other fans down at the other way because they were trying to get Bell's autograph when he was walking off the field. So I had Osemele, and he was kind of just talking to me for like 3 minutes, just talking about stuff. I was bummed to see when he left.
Yeah.
Whole another injury debacle too with Gase and all that.
Sure
and
was.
He was a really good player, but he prior to coming here, Pro Bowler and stuff. But I had a couple of good guys on there. So I also have a that, and I think there's one other guy on there that I think was a pretty known player. I just have to find it. There's a lot on there. I also got Perry Nickerson, who was.
It happens, dude. I have a helmet, dude, signed by like probably 60 players. I think probably 45 of them were never any good, man. It's just like it's luck of the draw sometimes.
Yeah, it's funny because that 2019 team, there was outside of Gase, there was promise with Bell and all that.
Yep.
And I even remember going to the training camp, and like every time he would make a catch, people would be like, "Let's go, Le'Veon,"
I was starstruck, dude. We covered that practice, and I was so starstruck by him, dude. I haven't been starstruck in a while. I was just complete awe. I'm like, this guy's amazing. Like you could see so much of him, and it's just.
It was funny because we went, and then the next day, Boomer and Gio did their show from there, and Joe Namath went. So I just missed meeting Namath by a day, but it was still a lot of fun. I'm hoping to go back again. I'm hoping to go back again this year because I really enjoyed it. And their training facility, unlike the stadium,
beautiful. Yeah,
great. It's awesome. It was really a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, no, dude, it's their facility is great. I wish they had more open practices, but I guess a lot of teams across the NFL are limiting them now for whatever reason. I guess because there's less practices in general. They want to close it to the public so they can have do their thing. But it's definitely cool, man. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So yeah.
So what's your you have a podcast too? You have a show too, don't you?
Yeah, I do a podcast. I actually have 2. I'm my goal.
Who you have now? Jeez, well, come on, man.
It's funny. Well, I've been doing it. Even I know when you guys were saying, I've actually been doing it. I've been doing it since like 2016, 2017.
Okay.
So my goal was one day to go and be a sports broadcaster. It's kind of my dream. My parents always tell me I have the gift to gag. I could talk.
Do it.
As some people say, talk a dog off a meat truck. I could talk for days. There's sometimes where I'll hear some people talking about sports and I'll just kind of join in because I just love talking about sports. So I have a podcast on YouTube and I also do one on Apple, which is I just started this year with the baseball season, and that's just covering baseball strictly.
All right. So what are they? Give us the names.
So my podcast on YouTube is BS Network, and then it stands for my name, Blair Sports Network, and then my podcast on Apple is Bubbs Talking Baseball.
There you go.
So,
well, Bubbs, thank you for joining me, man. I definitely appreciate it. You're awesome. I love talking to you, man. You know your stuff, so it's great to get your perspective, man. I definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Really enjoyed this. I've been also enjoying watching them. It's been fun because there hasn't been much other news going on with the Jets, so it's been fun to
that's for sure.
Keep
so
up with,
everybody's listening and watching this. Make sure you follow him. He's doing a good job, and we'll talk to you guys later. Close this out.